Welcome back to Film Files. In today's file, we will be uncovering a South Korean science fiction anthology film from 2012 titled Doomsday Book. Sit back, and let's dive in. The film tells three unique stories. Our story is about a young technician and a robot. Park Do-won, a repair specialist, arrives at a Buddhist monastery. He has been employed to check a defective RU-4 robot named In-myung. He earns that In-myung is a guide robot that provides general information. Park wonders if the robot can think independently, and the monk confirms it. The monk tells him that In-myung has achieved enlightenment and shares his beliefs with other Buddhists. This surprises Park, who believes it takes monks a long time to achieve enlightenment. They walk around the monastery as the monk talks to him about In-myung. Park is astonished. He had not heard of such before. The monk says he and other monks have heard the robot's teachings and have acknowledged his spiritual growth. He only wants Park to confirm whether In-myung has a technical glitch rather than checking or repairing his defects. Park finds In-myung praying with the other monks. He studies the robot carefully as it prays. Park is employed by a robotics corporation called UR International. Park examines In-myung with his equipment. Park suspects that the robot is curious, but it tells Park to acknowledge it for what it is. After Park's diagnosis, he discovers that the robot is normal. In-myung asks if Park still thinks he is defective, and he says yes. In-myung is not surprised that Park thinks something is wrong with it. In-myung asks him to feel at ease, but Park snaps at it. The robot is curious to know why UR International sent Park, but Park tells it that it is protocol and that it was the monastery who sent for their service. In-myung keeps questioning Park, and he becomes frustrated. He yells at the monks for accepting that a robot is Buddha and tells them that he doesn't know what they want him to do. He reminds them that his job is to repair defective robots and fix their parts. If the situation is beyond his control, he must report it to his superiors. In-myung tries to calm him, but Park snaps at it again and reminds it that it is a robot and should not interfere in human conversations. This upsets In-myung. The monk apologizes, and Park concludes that the situation is beyond him. He adds that he will file for a report. A female monastic confronts Park about his belief and asks why experts only believe in data. She asks why Park thinks data is the only truth, but he does not answer. She wonders why there is no room for imagination and why it is hard for Park to accept that In-myung is not a mere robot. Park is speechless but obviously frustrated and annoyed. Park insists that just as he is a technician, In-myung is only a robot and expresses his disbelief that the robot is Buddha. She insists that if he cannot believe that the robot is Buddha, he should acknowledge the hearts of the monks who requested his service. She asks him to check the robot once more, but Park has already concluded that In-myung is defective. He leaves the monastery angrily. The next day, Park is awoken by a woman who wants her robot pet dog fixed. She wants him to lend her a chip as she suspects that he will have many. Park suggests that she take the robot pet to a robot pet center. She insists that he help her as the robot pet center has closed and she has been waiting for him for hours. Park tells her to wait till the following day, but she yells at him and starts to cry. Frustrated, Park accepts to help her. Park sees her smoking a cigarette and tells her it is wrong, but she ignores him. Park doesn't have a suitable chip for the robot dog, but he tells her she will be able to play with it for a few hours. She tells him she is not satisfied but thanks him anyway. He refers her to a place where she can have her pet fixed, and she thanks him again. She asks if he lives alone with robots, but Park does not reply. She walks away, and Park watches her from his window. He sees her throw her robot pet in the trash can. The next day, in the news, Park learns that more and more young people choose robots over marriage. The effect has caused low birth rates. The newscaster suggests that the situation threatens the world. Just then, Park receives a call from his supervisor, who asks why he hasn't filed his report so she can decide what she will do with the robot. He tells her he will file it, but he hasn't reached a decision. He says he cannot decide whether the robot is still helpful or not and hangs up. Back at the monastery, the female monastic cannot sleep, so she meets In-myung for advice. She tells it she was upset by the encounter with Park earlier because he deemed the robot defective and ordered a recall. The robot says that Park did what he had to do as he is only human, but she adds that a team of exterminators who suspect he is a killer robot will arrive the next day. She questions their perception ability and warns In-myung that it will be in danger if no one does anything to protect it. He tells her perception is all about distinguishing between objects and persons but not necessarily knowing. He tells her that humans have things in common, so it is not difficult to identify one. Still, perception is hard to accept when some see him as a mere robot and a Buddha by others. He adds that perception is often mistaken for permanent truth and such delusions cause endless pain. He admonishes her to see him as a robot rather than a Buddha. She goes silent and takes in his words. Later, In-myung walks around the monastery sadly while the female monastic reflects on what he said to her. Meanwhile, Park is having difficulty deciding what to do about it. He is sitting alone and playing with a robot spider. In-myung. In-myung prays and asks for direction. It wants to know what it is. The next day, UR Chairman Kang, Park, and an extermination team arrive at the monastery to decommission In-myung. The extermination team is led by a female research executive, Minute. The monk presents another robot as a decoy while In-myung watches from among the crowd of other monks. Kang asks what model the robot is, and Minute confirms that In-myung is an old series. She says she will replace it, but the monk insists that the robot is still helpful to the temple. Minute tells him that it is their right and responsibility to update outdated models. Park notices that the robot they presented is not In-myung, but he plays along. The female monastic watches him from the crowd. He tells her that if the buyer is still satisfied, there is no need to have the model replaced. Minute asks if Park examined the robot, and he says he did, but he did not file his report. He adds that the robot is still functional. The monks are annoyed by Yor's visit and confront them as a mere corporation oppressing the masses. They add that UR is like the governments that oppress the people. Minute suggests that if the robot is defective, it could threaten its national security. Still, the monks tell her that it is only an excuse. Kang steps in and explains to the monastics that his company has the interest of mankind at heart and adds that the populace only see science as an instrument to mankind, like a genie in a lamp. But he explains that scientific advancements also change a man. He illustrates that science depends on man just as man depends on science, and if a man is not careful, man will create a monster that it cannot control. Kang tells them man creates his own demons and that he cannot allow In-myung to remain functional. Kang fears that his creation will endanger the world, but the monk tells him that all creators suffer the dilemma of worrying that they have created a monster. Kang decides that In-myung must be destroyed or else they will be left at its mercy. He believes his creation will turn against him and threaten the world. Kang asks if anyone knows the number of the monastery, but none of the monastics know it offhand. They check their phones before they can reply, and Kang feels disappointed. He says even the human brain still has its flaws despite being advanced enough to create intelligent robots. Kang, who was moving around on a wheelchair, stands and orders that In-myung presents itself. In-myung is sad. It rises and steps forward. Kang believes that the RU model is a dagger held to the throat of mankind as it has become aware and now thinks and behaves like a man. He adds that it has even invaded religion and art and must be exterminated. The monastics are still insistent that In-myung doesn't deserve to be eliminated. Kang plays a video recording from the master monk warning the monks of the danger In-myung poses as it claims that it has been enlightened. The robot fails to speak, and Kang orders its extermination. Before the exterminators can make a move, Park steps in and asks that he be given more time. He asks Kang to provide him with more time to check In-myung. Park adds that no human is perfect and no one is exterminating humans for their imperfections, but this doesn't convince Kang. Kang argues that a robot should not be capable of cognition or any human attributes and must unconditionally obey human orders. The monk is surprised that Kang is afraid of robots, primarily since his company specializes in developing them. Kang ignores his question and orders the extermination team to draw their weapons. The extermination team draws their weapons. Park steps in as the extermination team begins to open fire at In-myung. The team orders Park to move away from the robot. Still, he refuses, and a fight ensues between Park and the extermination team. He tries to fend them off, but they overpower him. Park realizes he is outnumbered and steps aside in defeat. The female monastic fears for Park and In-myung. She stands up when she notices the robot feels threatened and tries to calm it. Kang asks In-myung if it will obey the orders of humans, but it does not reply. In-myung fights off the extermination team and says that there is nothing wrong with a robot attaining enlightenment even if one is not supposed to. He adds that his evolution does not affect the world as humans will forever remain masters of the universe. It says it will leave since humans are afraid of his abilities. It kneels to pray before terminating its own functions. Everyone is in disbelief as it is confirmation that In-myung was indeed Buddha and had attained nirvana. Park confirms that In-myung is no longer functional when he discovers all its circuits have been powered off. The monastics all kneel and pray as Kang and Minute watch in disbelief. Later, Park finds the robot pet dog from earlier in the trash. It appears that the pet dog is still functional. He picks it up and later repairs it. Park cuts his hand open in a workshop and takes a chip from his hand. He places it into the pet dog. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and hit that notification button to open more files like this.